The reports that had reached the Galactic Council painted a truly unsettling picture of this strange new species called humans. Whispers of their ruthless conquests and callous disregard for other civilizations had spread like wildfire through the various galactic communities, igniting fear and suspicion in equal measure. Zarlek, the Xenos diplomat chosen to lead the Council's fact-finding mission, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his tentacles twitching with unease. Though he had encountered countless alien cultures in his long, distinguished career, nothing had prepared him for the daunting task that lay ahead. These humans, by all accounts, were unlike any other species the Council had encountered before. A race seemingly devoid of empathy or moral restraint, driven solely by an insatiable hunger for dominance and expansion. As the Council's discussion reached a fevered pitch, Zarlek cleared his throat, his deep, resonant voice cutting through the cacophony. "Honored delegates, I understand your concerns. The reports we have received are indeed troubling, but we cannot act on rumor and hearsay alone. We must see for ourselves the true nature of this human civilization before we can make any informed decisions." The room fell into a tense silence, the delegates exchanging uneasy glances. Finally, the Council's elder, a wizened Valsharis matriarch, nodded in solemn agreement. "Zarlek speaks wisely. We cannot allow fear to cloud our judgment. You will depart for the human homeworld immediately, and you will not return until you have uncovered the truth, no matter how unsettling it may be." Zarlek bowed his head respectfully, his heart racing with a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. The fate of the Galactic Federation might very well rest on the outcome of this mission, and he knew he could not afford to fail. As the Council's transport ship sliced through the void of space, Zarlek gazed out the viewport, his thoughts consumed by the daunting task that lay ahead. The human homeworld, known as Earth, was a mere speck in the vast expanse, but it carried the weight of the entire galactic community upon its surface. Upon arriving, Zarlek was immediately struck by the sheer diversity of the human species. Endless variations in skin tone, facial features, and physical stature greeted him, a stark contrast to the more homogeneous societies he was accustomed to. The bustling cities, with their towering structures and relentless activity, only added to the overwhelming sensory experience. Navigating the labyrinth of human customs and social norms was an equally daunting challenge. Zarlek found himself constantly observing, cataloging the peculiarities of this alien culture, the fervent debates in their political forums, the boisterous celebrations that erupted at the most seemingly mundane of occasions, the open displays of affection between mates. Yet, despite the initial shock, Zarlek could not shake the nagging feeling that there was more to these heartless humans than met the eye. Beneath the surface, he sensed a depth of emotion and complexity that belied the Council's grim expectations. As he delved deeper into human society, Zarlek found himself increasingly captivated, his preconceptions slowly beginning to unravel. As Zarlek delved deeper into the daily lives of the humans, his initial trepidation gradually gave way to a sense of genuine intrigue. These beings, so often described as heartless, were in fact overwhelmingly driven by a profound emotional depth that Zarlek had never encountered before. The Xenos diplomat found himself captivated by the humans' open displays of affection, the tender interactions between parent and child, the impassioned debates that raged in their political forums. This was a species that seemed to wear their hearts on their sleeves, unafraid to express the full spectrum of their feelings, a stark contrast to the stoic, reserved nature of Zarlek's own people. Yet, as he observed these emotional outbursts, Zarlek couldn't help but notice an underlying sense of purpose and determination that seemed to guide the humans' actions. There was a fierce protectiveness, a deep-rooted desire to safeguard their own, that permeated every aspect of their society. Intrigued, Zarlek sought to understand the source of this unwavering loyalty. What was it that drove these heartless humans to such unwavering devotion to their species? The answer, he soon discovered, would shatter the Council's preconceptions. During a visit to a bustling human city, Zarlek witnessed a startling scene that would forever change his perception of this enigmatic race. As he navigated the crowded streets, he caught sight of a group of humans gathered around a small, crumpled form on the ground. Their reactions were immediate and visceral: cries of anguish, desperate attempts to render aid, an outpouring of concern that seemed to transcend the boundaries of individual relationships. Zarlek watched, transfixed, as the humans rallied together, their emotions fueling a coordinated rescue effort. Ambulances were summoned, bystanders offered aid, and the injured individual was swiftly transported to a medical facility. It was a display of raw, unbridled compassion that the Xenos diplomat had never before witnessed in all of his travels. As he delved deeper into the incident, Zarlek uncovered a startling truth. The injured individual was not, in fact, a member of the human species at all, but rather a foreign traveler, a Valsharis merchant who had stumbled and fallen while navigating the unfamiliar streets. Yet the humans had responded with the same level of urgency and concern as they would have for one of their own. This revelation struck Zarlek like a thunderbolt. The reports of human conquests and ruthless expansion suddenly seemed to pale in comparison to this profound display of empathy and protectiveness. These were not the actions of cold, calculating invaders, but of a species deeply connected to the well-being of all sentient beings, regardless of their origin. As Zarlek's understanding of the humans deepened, he found himself increasingly captivated by this enigmatic race. The Council's preconceptions had been shattered, and in their place, a sense of awe and admiration began to take root. Perhaps, just perhaps, these heartless humans held the key to unlocking the future of unprecedented cooperation and prosperity for the entire Galactic Federation. Zarlek's understanding of the human species continued to deepen as he immersed himself further into their society. The more he observed, the more he found himself captivated by the sheer complexity and depth of emotion that seemed to permeate every aspect of human existence. The Xenos diplomat marveled at the passionate debates that raged in the human political forums, where individuals would eloquently argue their positions with a fervor that bordered on the obsessive. There was a palpable sense of investment, a genuine belief that their words and actions could shape the course of their civilization. Equally striking were the displays of affection Zarlek witnessed between human mates and family members. The tender caresses, the warm embraces, the unwavering loyalty. These were not the actions of a species devoid of emotion, but one driven by a profound need for connection and belonging. Yet, perhaps most astounding of all were the humans' reactions to adversity and threat. Zarlek had heard the reports of their ruthless conquests, but what he witnessed on the ground painted a very different picture. When faced with perceived danger, the humans did not lash out in cold calculation, but rather responded with a fierce protectiveness and an unwavering determination to safeguard their own. In one particularly harrowing incident, Zarlek observed a group of humans defending their settlement from what they perceived to be an alien invasion. The Xenos diplomat held his breath, expecting to see a brutal display of violence and subjugation. But to his astonishment, the humans' actions were not driven by a thirst for dominance, but rather a desperate need to protect their homes and loved ones. They fought with a ferocity that belied their relatively fragile physical forms, their faces etched with a resolute determination that Zarlek had never before witnessed. And when the invaders were finally repelled, the humans did not celebrate their victory with triumphant jeers, but rather gathered together in solemn reflection, offering prayers and condolences for those who had fallen, both human and alien alike. Zarlek found himself deeply moved by this display of compassion, a quality that seemed to be woven into the very fabric of human society. The reports he had received of these heartless beings were starting to crumble, replaced by a growing sense of admiration and respect. As he continued his observations, the Xenos diplomat began to uncover a deeper truth about the human species, one that would ultimately shatter the Galactic Council's preconceptions and force them to reevaluate their stance on this enigmatic race. The conquests and expansions that had so alarmed the Council, Zarlek discovered, were not acts of cold-blooded aggression, but rather desperate attempts by the humans to defend their homeworld and protect their people from perceived existential threats. These were not the actions of heartless invaders, but of a species driven by an intense, almost primal, need to ensure the survival of their kind. Zarlek's findings were a revelation, a stark contrast to the Council's grim expectations. The humans, it seemed, were willing to go to unimaginable lengths to safeguard their own, a quality that could prove invaluable in the face of the growing challenges facing the Galactic Federation. As the Xenos diplomat prepared to report his findings, he knew that the Council's perception of this remarkable species was about to be irrevocably transformed. As Zarlek delved deeper into the troubled history of human-alien interactions, a startling truth began to emerge, one that would forever change the Galactic Council's perception of this enigmatic species. The conquests and expansions that had so alarmed the Council, Zarlek discovered, were not acts of cold-blooded aggression, but rather desperate attempts by the humans to defend their homeworld and protect their people from perceived existential threats. These were not the actions of heartless invaders, but of a species driven by an intense, almost primal, need to ensure the survival of their kind. Time and again, Zarlek uncovered instances where human colonies or settlements had come under attack from other alien civilizations, their resources coveted, their populations subjugated. In response, the humans had risen up, fighting with a ferocity and determination that belied their relatively fragile physical forms. They were not the aggressors, but the defenders willing to go to unimaginable lengths to safeguard their homes and loved ones. The Xenos diplomat was awestruck by this revelation, his preconceptions crumbling in the face of such a profound, visceral display of protective instinct. These heartless humans were in fact fiercely loyal to their own, driven by an unwavering commitment to the well-being of their species that Zarlek had never before encountered. As he pieced together the full scope of the humans' actions, a troubling pattern began to emerge. Whenever their existence had been threatened, the humans had responded with a level of resourcefulness and adaptability that was both impressive and unsettling. They had developed advanced technologies, forged powerful alliances, and even engaged in interstellar warfare, all in the name of safeguarding their homeworld and their people. Zarlek found himself both captivated and unnerved by this discovery. The humans' willingness to go to such lengths to ensure their survival was both admirable and deeply concerning. What would happen, he wondered, if the Galactic Federation were to be threatened in a similar fashion? Would these heartless beings prove to be the Federation's greatest allies or its most formidable foes? As he prepared to present his findings to the Council, Zarlek knew that the ramifications of his discoveries would be far-reaching. The preconceptions that had guided the Council's perception of the humans would be shattered, forcing them to confront a stark, unnerving reality. These were not the cold, calculating invaders they had been led to believe, but a species driven by a profound and unyielding drive to protect their own kind, no matter the cost. The Xenos diplomat's heart raced with a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. The Council would be deeply unsettled by these revelations, but Zarlek also sensed an opportunity, a chance to forge a new understanding, a partnership that could potentially reshape the future of the entire Galactic Federation. With a deep breath, Zarlek set out to return to the Council, his mind racing with the implications of his findings. The humans, he knew, were a force to be reckoned with, and the galactic community would have to decide how to approach this enigmatic species, whether as potential conquerors or as invaluable allies in the battles to come. As Zarlek stood before the Galactic Council, his tentacles twitching with a mixture of trepidation and conviction, he knew that the revelations he was about to share would irrevocably transform their perception of the human species. The Xenos diplomat's findings had shattered the Council's preconceptions, shattering the grim narrative they had constructed around these heartless beings. Far from being ruthless conquerors, the humans were in fact fiercely protective of their own, driven by an intense, almost primal, need to ensure the survival of their kind. Zarlek recounted the instances he had witnessed, where human colonies and settlements had come under attack from other alien civilizations. Instead of lashing out in cold, calculated aggression, the humans had responded with a ferocity and determination that belied their relatively fragile physical forms. They fought not for dominance or expansion, but to safeguard their homes and loved ones, their actions fueled by an unwavering commitment to the well-being of their species. The council listened in stunned silence, their alien faces etched with a mixture of disbelief and growing unease. The reports they had received had painted a vastly different picture, one of ruthless invaders, consumed by a thirst for conquest and subjugation. But Zarlek's findings had torn that narrative to shreds, revealing a complex, passionate species driven by a profound sense of empathy and a fierce protectiveness of their own. As the Xenos diplomats' presentation drew to a close, the council chambers erupted in a cacophony of hushed discussions and uneasy murmurs. The delegates exchanged wary glances, their minds grappling with the implications of Zarlek's revelations. Finally, the council's elder, a wizened Valsharus matriarch, raised a tentative hand, silencing the room. "Zarlek, your findings have certainly shaken the foundations of our understanding. These humans, whom we had dismissed as heartless conquerors, are in fact driven by a fierce desire to protect their own kind. This changes everything." The matriarch paused, her eyes narrowing, as she contemplated the gravity of the situation. "If what you say is true, then the humans' actions, far from being acts of aggression, were desperate attempts to safeguard their homeworld and their people. And if that is the case, then we may have misjudged them gravely." Zarlek nodded solemnly, his gaze unwavering. "Indeed, honored delegates, the human survival instinct, their willingness to go to such lengths to protect their own, is a quality that could prove invaluable in the face of the growing threats facing the Galactic Federation." The council fell silent once more, the weight of Zarlek's words settling like a lead blanket over the chamber. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances, their minds racing with the implications of this startling revelation. Finally, the elder matriarch spoke again, her voice tinged with a newfound sense of purpose. "Then it is clear what we must do. We can no longer view the humans as potential conquerors, but rather as potential allies. If we can harness their fierce protectiveness, their resourcefulness, and their adaptability, then perhaps they can become the key to ensuring the survival of the Galactic Federation itself." Zarlek felt a surge of cautious optimism as the council nodded in agreement. The path forward was fraught with uncertainty, but the Xenos diplomat knew that the stakes had never been higher. The future of the entire galactic community now rested on the Council's ability to forge a new understanding with this enigmatic species, one that could transform the humans from perceived foes to invaluable partners. As Zarlek stood before the Galactic Council, his tentacles twitching with a mixture of trepidation and conviction, he knew that the revelations he was about to share would irrevocably transform their perception of the human species. The Xenos diplomats' findings had shattered the Council's preconceptions, shattering the grim narrative they had constructed around these heartless beings. Far from being ruthless conquerors, the humans were in fact fiercely protective of their own, driven by an intense, almost primal, need to ensure the survival of their kind. Zarlek recounted the instances he had witnessed, where human colonies and settlements had come under attack from other alien civilizations. Instead of lashing out in cold, calculated aggression, the humans had responded with a ferocity and determination that belied their relatively fragile physical forms. They fought not for dominance or expansion, but to safeguard their homes and loved ones, their actions fueled by an unwavering commitment to the well-being of their species. The council listened in stunned silence, their alien faces etched with a mixture of disbelief and growing unease. The reports they had received had painted a vastly different picture, one of ruthless invaders, consumed by a thirst for conquest and subjugation. But Zarlek's findings had torn that narrative to shreds, revealing a complex, passionate species driven by a profound sense of empathy and a fierce protectiveness of their own. As the Xenos diplomats' presentation drew to a close, the council chambers erupted in a cacophony of hushed discussions and uneasy murmurs. The delegates exchanged wary glances, their minds grappling with the implications of Zarlek's revelations. Finally, the council's elder, a wizened Valsharis matriarch, raised a tentative hand, silencing the room. Zarlek, your findings have certainly shaken the foundations of our understanding. These humans, whom we had dismissed as heartless conquerors, are in fact driven by a fierce desire to protect their own kind. This changes everything. The matriarch paused, her eyes narrowing as she contemplated the gravity of the situation. If what you say is true, then the humans' actions, far from being acts of aggression, were desperate attempts to safeguard their homeworld and their people. And if that is the case, then we may have misjudged them gravely. Zarlek nodded solemnly, his gaze unwavering. Indeed, honored delegates, the human survival instinct, their willingness to go to such lengths to protect their own, is a quality that could prove invaluable in the face of the growing threats facing the Galactic Federation. The council fell silent once more, the weight of Zarlek's words settling like a lead blanket over the chamber. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances, their minds racing with the implications of this startling revelation. Finally, the elder matriarch spoke again, her voice tinged with a newfound sense of purpose. Then it is clear what we must do. We can no longer view the humans as potential conquerors, but rather as potential allies. If we can harness their fierce protectiveness, their resourcefulness, and their adaptability, then perhaps they can become the key to ensuring the survival of the Galactic Federation itself. Zarlek felt a surge of cautious optimism as the council nodded in agreement. The path forward was fraught with uncertainty, but the Xenos diplomat knew that the stakes had never been higher. The future of the entire galactic community now rested on the Council's ability to forge a new understanding with this enigmatic species, one that could transform the humans from perceived foes to invaluable partners. As the Council's overture was delivered to the human representatives, Zarlek watched with bated breath, his tentacles twitching with anticipation. The stakes could not be higher. The future of the entire Galactic Federation hinged on the outcome of these delicate negotiations. To the Xenos diplomat's relief, the human delegates responded with cautious optimism. They recognized the significance of the Council's offer and the potential benefits that a strategic alliance could bring to both their civilizations. Yet their initial hesitation was palpable, a reflection of the mistrust and suspicion that had long defined a relationship between humans and the rest of the galactic community. Zarlek understood their reticence all too well. The humans had endured countless encounters with other alien species, many of which had resulted in the subjugation or exploitation of their people. To them, the Council's overtures must have seemed like little more than a thinly veiled attempt to lure them into a false sense of security, only to be betrayed once more. As the discussions progressed, Zarlek made it his mission to bridge the divide, to demonstrate to the humans that the Council's intentions were genuine. He shared the revelations that had shattered his own preconceptions, speaking passionately about the humans' fierce protectiveness, their unwavering loyalty, and their remarkable adaptability. Slowly but surely, the human delegates began to warm to the idea of a partnership. They saw an opportunity to forge a new alliance, one that could strengthen the bonds between their species and help ensure the survival of both. The prospect of pooling their resources, combining their technological prowess, and working together to face the growing threats facing the Galactic Federation was a tempting one. Yet, even as the negotiations advanced, Zarlek could sense the lingering hesitation in the humans' demeanor. They had been betrayed and exploited far too many times in the past to fully trust the Council's intentions. The Xenos diplomat knew that he would need to tread carefully, to earn the humans' trust through actions, not just words. As the discussions continued, Zarlek found himself drawn deeper into the complexities of human society. He marveled at the vibrant tapestry of cultures, the diversity of belief systems, and the fiercely independent spirit that seemed to define this remarkable species. It was a far cry from the homogeneous, hierarchical structures he was accustomed to within the Galactic Council. Yet, it was this very diversity that Zarlek believed could be the key to forging a successful alliance. The humans' capacity for innovation, their willingness to challenge the status quo, and their fierce commitment to individual liberty were qualities that could prove invaluable in the battles to come. Slowly but surely, a partnership began to take shape, built on a foundation of mutual respect and a shared desire for peace. The Council and the humans worked together to address the challenges facing the Galactic Federation, each side learning from the other's unique strengths and perspectives. Zarlek found himself increasingly captivated by the humans, their complex emotional landscape, and their unwavering dedication to the well-being of their species. As the alliance deepened, he knew that the Council's initial preconceptions had been shattered beyond repair, replaced by a newfound admiration for these unlikely saviors. As the Council and the humans forged their newfound alliance, working side by side to address the growing threats facing the Galactic Federation, the true nature of humanity became increasingly clear to Zarlek and the other delegates. These heartless beings, once dismissed as ruthless conquerors, were in fact driven by an unwavering compassion and a fierce determination to protect their own. Their actions were not fueled by a thirst for domination, but by a deep-rooted need to ensure the survival and well-being of their species. Zarlek marveled at the humans' resourcefulness and adaptability, their ability to rapidly develop advanced technologies and forge strategic alliances in the face of adversity. What had once been perceived as cold, calculated aggression was now understood as a desperate, yet remarkably effective, survival mechanism. And as the Xenos diplomat witnessed the humans' fervent displays of loyalty and devotion, he found himself increasingly captivated by their complex emotional landscape. The passionate debates, the tender embraces, the solemn memorials for the fallen. These were not the actions of a species devoid of empathy, but one deeply connected to the well-being of their kind. The Council, once wary of this enigmatic race, now looked upon the humans with a newfound admiration. Zarlek's findings had shattered their preconceptions, forcing them to reevaluate their stance and see the humans as potential allies, rather than perceived foes. As the partnership between the Council and the humans deepened, Zarlek could not help but marvel at the transformative power of understanding. Where there had once been fear and suspicion, there now blossomed a sense of mutual respect and cooperation. The humans' fierce protectiveness, their resourcefulness, and their unwavering determination had proven to be invaluable assets in the battles to come. Together, the Council and the humans worked tirelessly to address the growing threats facing the Galactic Federation. They pooled their resources, combined their technological prowess, and leveraged their unique strengths to overcome challenges that had once seemed insurmountable. Zarlek watched with a sense of awe as the humans' fierce loyalty and unwavering commitment to their own kind became a rallying cry for the entire galactic community. Their actions, once viewed with suspicion, were now celebrated as acts of heroism and selflessness, inspiring others to rise up and defend their homes and loved ones. And as the Council and the humans continued to forge their alliance, Zarlek couldn't help but feel a sense of profound gratitude for the journey that had brought them to this point. The preconceptions that had once defined their relationship had been shattered, replaced by a newfound understanding and appreciation for the remarkable qualities that made the human species so unique. In the face of the growing challenges that threatened to tear the Galactic Federation apart, the humans had emerged as unlikely saviors. Their fierce protectiveness, their resourcefulness, and their unwavering commitment to the well-being of their own kind, proving to be the key to ensuring the survival and prosperity of the entire galactic community. As Zarlek reflected on the remarkable transformation that had taken place, he knew that the Council's astonishment had given way to a deep admiration for these heartless beings. The future of the Galactic Federation, once shrouded in uncertainty, now glowed with the promise of a bold new era, one in which the humans would play a vital role in shaping the destiny of all.